Good news! Alpha Omega is back and it has been buffed, which is just excellent because this used to be one of my favourite classes to use back in the day, but today we're going to go through and do a review on it because it really is worth picking up. Overall, I'm giving it a rank A, solo at an A+, support at a B+, PvP at a B, and farming down at a C. The class has had some new effects added in, and I tell you what, it really has changed the way you can go about now using it. If you are a free player or member, you're able to go along and pick it up by merging within the Wheel of Doom merge shop. The Doom Omega class is exactly the same, it's just a duplicate version. You can also go along, speak to Ragnar if you want to really spend 1,000 ACs on it, you can. Or you can also speak to Ragnar and pick it up in the Legendary Classes merge shop for some combat trophies. Some of the most important things to note with this class though are some of these changes. Field Medic will now apply to 7 friendly targets, which makes it really good for bossing scenarios. You've also got Bunker Buster, which will deal true damage, and you've now got a Decay as well as a stun on Alpha Omega. So there are some really interesting bits that have been added to make it really quite a viable option. It is an outright solo class with really good survivability, however you can also have that support element because of your skill 4. As always, I'll show a full breakdown of the skills if you're interested at the end of the video so you can see exactly what they now do. However, Deja Dark Lord will be completed within 2 plates, and if you run this ultra quite a lot, you know a 2-plate run is pretty speedy. And just as a backup, if you do end up needing Decay during this fight, then it's ready to go on your skill 3 on the class. So it really has added that extra element in. Not only that, the damage numbers you can output now really are great, and it's also like a mini Ravenous. I'm going to be honest with you, it's a bit like the Ravenous enhancement because the way your skill 5 works is the longer the fight goes on, the lower HP the enemy, the more damage skill 5 deals, so it scales the longer the fight goes on. It's not like ridiculous nuking numbers, but it's still significant enough that you're hitting 70k, 60k if you're all forged up. Now, let's take Forge fully off. This is full luck. We are using absolutely no Forge, just so you can see how it looks if you're going along, if you are a player that maybe doesn't have access to these enhancements yet. To be honest, the fights, if you are doing a boss with more HP, do start off a little bit slower, around the sort of 2,000, 2,300 damage a second, but that will naturally increase as the fight goes on. However, how many 900k bosses on a daily basis will you be defeating? I'm not sure there'll be quite that many. They'll be a little bit lower, so if we're looking at the more lower tier bosses, then this class is going to be absolutely great for doing it. You're not going to run into mana issues until a little bit later if you do just keep skill spamming, which, full disclaimer, was the combo I decided to use. And once your mana gets a little bit lower, then yes, you could potentially start slowing down a bit, but you're not going to run into the pit of just having absolutely nothing to use. Generally, your 2 does come up and you can regen enough to at least carry on using your skills. So it didn't really cause a major problem, or at least nothing that I felt was an issue for myself, but that may be different when you go along and give it a go. I'm now going to stick the Forge straight back on because we want to see what sort of damage numbers you can output if you have gone along doing all of your Forge enhancements. Okie doke, so this time around though, we are going to be using Valiant, Vainglory, and Vim. Suddenly, this will jump your damage per second right up to around the 8,000 mark, and that's without pots, so you could push that even further, I'm sure, if you want to try and change the setup about a little bit as well and have a bit more of a play around. I think the real important thing to note with this class is how easy it is to obtain. If you want a really good solo class for a really cheap and simple amount of time to put in, something that's not going to take ages to do, then going along and doing either your daily spins at the wheel, if you remember, that's 30 days minus a few days for the gear turn-ins. But free players get a weekly spin by turning in the Gears of Doom. That will take a little bit longer, but if you're progressively doing it and it's what you want to work towards, then again, it is a nice, simple class to obtain that you can just get in the background, although it could take you a little bit of time if you are trying to do that. What's that? At least about 2/3 of a year, maybe a little bit less. Now, if you have been paying attention to the background, we've got it up, like I say, to that 8,000 damage a second mark. Your skill 2 pretty consistently does about 4,000 damage thereabouts. That's a double strike. We have the Decay kicking in, although that's not really relevant here, but the skill 5 True Nuke will be doing around 60k damage, which is great. It's really good. When you just consider that you don't really have to put any effort in, it's obviously not going to match up to Cav or Void High Lord. They're still going to be a tier above, and that sort of class will be, but it is still a great, viable option, and I do think that if you haven't got it, it really honestly is worth going along and picking it up. Farming scenarios, you're never really going to use it here. You could, I suppose, leech onto some people farming with your skill 4, heal them, and get their kill rewards as well. if you really wanted to, but this is not a farming class, so don't use it for that purpose. Next up, we're going to flick over to PvP. This is one of those areas I feel maybe I could have done better with it. If I could land the stun straight away with 3, do a tiny bit of damage off 2, then hit 5, you probably will defeat people within 3 taps, potentially. That's just going off the top of my head. Or you can use it straight away like I did there, then you've got about 5,000 health to get through. But the minute you come across stunners, or you just don't land those attacks, you are going to be in trouble. The true damage mechanic on this class is really cool, and that may just be a me thing, but to be able to go along and know that your skill 5 nuke is guaranteed to hit is great. That's exactly what true damage is, just for anyone that doesn't know, and it's the same when you go along to ultras and it always says like true damage on the attack. They're gonna hit you, so that's what your skill 5 does. I'm just gonna load up on screen the design notes post just so you can see exactly the skill breakdown here, what they now do. So if you would like to have a read of these, just give the screen a pause as we go through them. I'm not going to be reading them out to you. I couldn't load them up in game like I normally do. It was a little bit irritating because they weren't quite as in-depth as this. Anyway, folks, as always, thank you very much for watching. And I'm so glad Alpha Omega is back into the fold because it, like I say, it did used to be one of my favourite classes back in the day. Although I did spend a season on it, that's before it was in the wheel, but that's just something we'll have to live with. But hey ho, it's the way it goes sometimes. But as always, please do leave a like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you all again for another one incredibly soon.